Welcome to the I Am You podcast. I am your host, Dr. Nitza Alvarez, a board-certified cardiologist and best-selling author. My hope with this podcast is to share stories so women can speak up and become the CEO of their own health. I am a cardiologist. I am a wife. I am a mother. My story is your story. I am you. Welcome to another episode of I Am You. For those that are joining us for the first time, I welcome you, and I hope that this podcast serves you as an inspiration to be the CEO of your own health and take charge of your health. In this podcast, we touch in different topics, and today we have decided to invite Miss Uhde. Mm-hmm. Welcome.
Thank you.
When we invited you to the podcast, one of the things is that as we started this movement of empowering women to be their own advocate, to speak up, we also have been working very diligently on helping people understand that we don't have to wait until we're sick to seek medical attention, that you don't know if something is wrong if you don't get checked. Mm-hmm. It's just like expecting that your card is going to give you 200,000 miles without having to go for a check. And so for the human body, it's the same thing. And as a community, we are all educated that if you feel okay, you don't have to see doctors. Mm-hmm. However, you don't necessarily believe that. And you've been a firm believer that seeing doctor has helped you to be where you are today. So why don't you share with our audience, how did you decide to see a cardiologist and why?
Well, I'm a daughter of two parents, both had cardiac issues. My father had his first heart attack at 59, and my mother had something called silent heart attacks, but neither of them went to anybody else but the regular doctors. Well, in 2005, my mom passed at 79. And I decided my life has got to change. So I decided to move, and I found the villages because they have so many activities and exercise and healthy programs. But then came, oh my God, I have to get on new doctors because it's 7 hours to Athens. So I thought I had a good cadre of doctors, and I was very happy. But then in 2014, I had an issue which I thought was a heart attack, but it turned out to be gallbladder. So I had surgery. There were some issues with the surgery. So when I went to my next appointment with my cardiac doctor, he looked at me, and I was telling him about the surgery and all the complications. He said, you know what? You got to keep those 30 pounds off. I went, what? I'm talking to you about major surgery and complications, and you're telling me not to gain weight? And I've had issues with weight, so, but I decided, he was checking a box, I'm out of here. So then I found you, and I've really liked our communication and everything. I've started on one of your programs for statins, taking, I think it was a Gatorade. Well, I'm sorry, I didn't like it. So then you
have to be sorry. But I wanted to actually go back for a little second, because I think it's important for the audience when you say, I ended up with problems and I had a surgery. I went to see my doctor, who was my doctor for a little while. Mm-hmm. What didn't work out for you there? When you said that he was actually so focused on the fact that you lost 30 pounds, which we all know that weight loss is a risk factor for many medical conditions, you felt that he was just looking at a number, he wasn't looking at you as a whole?
Exactly. And
that was very disappointing to you, because for you to decide, you know what, this is not going to work out.
Right. And with parents who had cardiac issues, I certainly want to go to somebody who's going to be a help to me. And I thought, he's got me in this box. Check this. Mm-mm.
That's how you felt. Okay. Mm-hmm. So then you, in your search, looking for another provider, you found me.
Yes.
And then part of the idea of joining me is because at that point, we were running a research, and the research was to see an alternative to the statins for management of cholesterol in patients that don't have an indication for cholesterol. And then that's how you got in here.
Right.
And then what of the practice you enjoy? And this is not for the sake of my practice. This is for the sake of when a woman is, or anybody is looking for a physician to establish a relationship with them, they had to feel comfortable. But comfortable for everybody has a different meaning. What does it mean to you, a good patient and doctor relationship?
Well, when I didn't care for the research, you said, well, we can go on a statin. And I said, I don't want to do an oil-based statin. And you said, oh, well, we have water-based ones. And I went, my kind of doctor.
Okay. So that sounds like, okay, you give me choices,
Yes.
you listen to me,
Yes,
you didn't
yes.
impose yourself. So that's for you is super important in a patient relationship, a patient-doctor relationship. And I think it's super valuable. No, that is super important. That when we don't have to be in a relationship where the patient had to stay quiet and not express how they feel about something. I'd rather have you telling me than going home and not taking the pill. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
But then also for the doctors to be receptive to what patients had to tell us, because not only help them be more compliant, but what are your concerns? And sometimes we can demystify the concerns, and sometimes it's like, if that is your genuine concern and we have options, why not? Yeah.
Right.
So that is actually a super valuable tip for our audience. Is like, make sure that when you have that relationship with your doctor, that is somebody that is willing to sit down with you and say, okay, so why are you concerned? Or what are the options that I have? Or ask. Say tip number 1 for the podcast. Ask, what are my options?
Right,
Yes?
exactly.
What are my options? Okay, so you found me, and then you established a relationship with me. You have always been very proactive about your health, and so we have been always staying top of things. So, okay, it's time to check this, it's time for a checkup, but you come and see me every year, even though you don't have a problem.
Right.
Why?
Because I don't want to have a problem. And I love the fact that I get the Boston blood work, because then I can see exactly where I am and I can notice oh, you did that? You shouldn't have done that.
Okay.
And the support system with Shelley and Jeannie, it's really great, because I feel like it's a triangle. We'll put you at the top. We'll do it that way. And I'm in the middle. So I have all this support around me. If I need anything, I call Jeannie. As a matter of fact, I called her yesterday and said, are you sure I'll be right for this? And she said, yes. And she reassured me and everything like that. So I like that support. And I feel like if anything happens, you all know me, I know you, and I'll get the help I need.
Perfect. And I think that you couldn't say any better. This is actually important. Tip number 2. If you're wondering why do you have to see your doctor every year, is because we cannot tell if something is wrong with you if we don't see you. If we don't run tests. You were talking about the advanced lipid panel that you love so much. I love it too. That's part of management of lipidemia. So when we are managing lipids, if we just stay with the tip of the iceberg, like I like to say, the cholesterol panel that is done on every patient, you will never know the details of your cholesterol, particle sizes, what amount are you having circulating in your bloodstream, from where is your cholesterol coming. So that test is very valuable. And for you in this case, it's like, I don't just know my cholesterol. I know how my lifestyle impact those numbers, because when you do it, I'm like, oh, I know it was a little high because I was eating a little more cheese, or I was on vacation, something like that. So it is the audience, they have heard me talking in different forums. The analogy of the car is the best analogy for when we talk about prevention. No, we do not wait until we see the light of the engine coming up in the car. We do not wait until we have flat tires in the road or brakes that fail to brake in the road. We take our cars for maintenance. We go for certain mileage, and then we go for maintenance. They check our vehicles to make sure that we're safe. But then we don't do that with the body. Like we don't do stops. We don't do checkups. And I like to tell the patients, sometimes it's like, when you see these race cars, they stop, they check their tires, they change it. Nothing had to have happened to that car when it was actually on the racetrack. It's just like, it's time for maintenance. We got to change the tires. They have to be at their best. And then I cannot tell you how many times I have had patients that come to see me for their preventive care. And we find that there is a problem, and now we can actually address it in a timely manner. It's not an emergency. It becomes something that we can control. And in a controlled environment, it's much easier to take care of. Yes?
Also, the sooner the better, because then it doesn't get worse.
Exactly. sometimes is if we find it early is reversible, and then can we reverse this what we need to do, or even if we find that we're like, okay, what can we do so we can change the direction so you don't end up against that wall, which is going to be the heart attack or the stroke. No,
Right.
but the problem is that sometimes we're afraid. We're so afraid when it comes to heart disease that it's better to close my eyes and say, I don't know, and I'm okay. Because we always think catastrophic when it has to do with the heart. But at the same time, is the opposite. Is the sooner we can identify, the better. And we only have one body. And we only have one heart. We have 2 eyes, we have 2 kidneys, we have a liver that regenerates, we have 2 arms, 2 legs, but one heart. And that's it. So if we do not take care of that organ that is so important and so valuable. So that is actually the tip number 2 is just you are going to see your doctor because you want to stay healthy, not because you want them to correct something when you are not healthy.
Correct.
Yeah? Okay. So, and then that cost you something because you decided, you were sharing with me before we got into the cameras about your GI doctor. Do you want to share that with the audience?
Oh, yeah. I've been so good about seeing all my doctors that I have sometimes GI issues, and I haven't seen her in 2 years. Well, I travel a lot, so I never thought about it. So I'm in Alaska, and I have a GI attack, and I call her, and she says, I haven't seen you in 2 years. Go to the emergency room. And I went, what?
Do you see?
So I have an appointment at the end of the month. I will go and get everything checked, and I'll put her on my list once a year, every year. So, yeah.
Yeah. So not only you also, it's like being a regular client. It's like, okay, baby, but I haven't seen you in a while. So now I'm going to need to try to get all this information again. But also, she could have prevented that. No, if you were, some things are not preventable, we try.
Right.
But, so many things can be like, that's why we take care of the maintenance of the house. Because we can prevent fires, we can prevent short circuits, we can prevent floods. But sometimes we might even end up with the flood. But that doesn't mean that you are not careful. But, we can avoid a lot of things that can happen to us. So I love the fact that you don't necessarily have to have a major problem to seek medical attention. For the women that are listening to us, if you don't know your risk factor for heart disease, learn that if you have them, they already put you at high risk for heart problems. So I want them to know. So many times women don't know that as simple as being postmenopausal is a risk factor for heart disease. Menopause is like a curtain that we cross. Perimenopause is that period where the menstruation is changing, maybe it's less volume. We are not having so many days that we're getting close to that menopause. But every single thing that we know about heart disease starts after menopause, which is telling us this change in our hormones is putting us at higher risk of having a heart attack and a stroke. So if you already know that, don't you want to make sure that you don't develop that? So if you already have menopause, if you are menopausal, if you're going through it, then you are at risk for heart disease. And that alone should be a good reason to go and visit your doctor and say, okay, this is my risk. Help me understand where am I and what can I do different to make sure that I don't end up in there.
Another addition to that would be if you have a hysterectomy, because then your hormones change as well.
The hysterectomy is actually tricky for women because once you have hysterectomy and you don't have periods, it's so hard for them to know where are they in the process, no? So for the women that have uterus, if they have never had an ablation, it's easy for them to know, I went through menopause here. So when we ask them, because we know now that with hormone replacement therapy, we can help reduce the risk for heart disease. But when you ask a woman that had hysterectomy, when was your menopause? Because we have a window of 10 years to start the hormone replacement. And more often than not, they won't know because my period went away when they removed my uterus. And there was a time in situations where they don't only remove the uterus, but they remove the ovaries as well. And that puts you in early menopause, so we call very premature menopause. So if you have uterus removed and ovaries removed, then you have premature menopause. So that means that you have much higher risk of heart disease at early age. So if they remove the uterus of that woman with ovaries at the age of 30, then they're menopausal then. That means that they already have the risk for heart disease starting that early. So
I wish I had known that when I was 50.
And that is actually part of what this is all about. No, it's education. You didn't know, but today we're having this conversation. It's 2025. So we're hoping that the one that are listening to us today know, just having been menopausal, going through that process increased my risk. When you have a conversation with your doctors and said, I want to see my cardiologist, I want to see a cardiologist. And it's also important to know you don't have to ask for permission to see a cardiologist.
True.
Many times patients ask us, do I need a referral to come and see you? And I'm like, I don't know, do you? Well, if we are going to rely on insurance, some insurance might require pre-authorization to get to see a specialist or referral to get to see a specialist. Some insurance don't. You can choose if you want to go and see a specialist. And more often than not, it's like, don't wait for the insurance. The ones that have heard me talking so many times, it's like, if we're going to wait for the insurance to approve something for you, you might not even be here to have the conversation. So we also have to be willing to invest on our health a little bit. Is there anything else that you want to add to the audience?
Well, just a little funny about when I was in the emergency room. I have a very high pain tolerance. So anyway, my friend and I were sitting there, and I said, what do I tell them? I really don't feel any pain. She says, be a man, add 5. So I was a Superman. I added 8 to my pain level.
That's actually is a very characteristic of women. We normally do not scale our pain properly. And sometimes it's actually because we're afraid that people are going to think that we're seeking drugs or that we're exaggerating what is happening with us.
Right.
No? But I know that taking care of so many people, women are very strong, tolerant to pain, and we tend to underestimate or undermine our pain level. And I love that. If you were a man, well, how would you code that? With all the love that we have for our men.
Yes.
Okay, so I am so grateful that you're here today, Anna.
Well, thank you.
Thank
I enjoyed it very much.
Thank you so much. And this takes us to an end of another great episode of I Am You. Thank you for joining us. I hope this episode has empowered you to be the CEO of your own health. Tune into our next episode, and don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at NITZAMD. To explore more on this and related topics, visit our website, NITZAMD.com. If this episode resonated with you, please like and subscribe. And one more thing, share with the wonderful woman in your life.